All right, I got my favorite shirt on.
Jesus is my lift ticket?
Jesus is my lift ticket.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
He is. He is my lift ticket, so
Nice.
I'm wearing it.
Okay, I like it.
I'm going with it.
It's a nice. You're also hoping for ski seasons to start like tomorrow.
Well, we have some storms that have gone into the northern mountains. Not a lot of snow yet. Kind of these 1 to 5 inchers coming through.
Yeah.
And got another one coming in Sunday into Monday. Could see another one after Thanksgiving, so we'll see what happens. We're getting enough cold air in place to start making a little bit of snow, so we're getting close.
Okay, so I can't really talk about this like I know, but I did read a crazy headline that said an Arizona ski resort's open before Utah.
Yes, because there's been a series of storms that have come through Arizona over the past couple of weeks, and I have no doubt that's probably true.
I know.
Outside of Flag would be my guess.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
absolutely
may-
been the case. And they've kind of gone down there and then lifted up. So we've seen a nice storm track change, which has kind of involved New Mexico again, which it hadn't for 6-8 weeks.
Okay.
So we're looking better on that front. We'll get to that. This is our only show before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving week, and so we are going to take the week off with our family. So we have packed this show. So for anybody that says our show's too long, well, buckle up, baby, because today's going to be a little beefier. You know what you can do? You can listen to half today and half on Wednesday, and you'll be just fine.
Oh yeah, we'll try not to go too long on this one. I always try to keep it under an hour, but I can't guarantee on this one. We'll see.
Yeah, you've thrown a lot at us today.
We'll
but
see. Well, I had some help.
You did have some help, yes. You sure did. And speaking of help, today we actually have our producer home.
Oh my gosh.
Her name is Ava.
Ava
You guys
back.
missed me so much, I know.
Unbelievable.
We did.
Ava winging her way back to New Mexico from
Hello.
Liberty. How are we
To my
doing?
many fans, I have missed you dearly, and I think about you every day. And I wish to return to the No Doubt About It podcast, but alas, I must get educated.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good
And
point.
I am here after grueling 2 very short flights,
Yes.
and
Grueling.
very glad to be back, actually.
Okay. Well, good.
welcome back.
You're doing great. She's doing great at school, so
Yeah.
very well done.
I
Debate team going well?
Debate team is going fantastic.
Okay, good.
Very well for me.
Yeah. Are you guys handling the rest of the country?
Yes, the other teams are not doing well because I am doing well.
You're
So
handling their business.
I am.
How many titles do we have under our belt?
I have one tournament win.
Mm-hmm.
Every other tournament, I have either been a finalist or a semifinalist.
Okay.
And I have 2 speaker first positions.
Okay.
Every other tournament, I also placed top 10 for speaks.
Okay. Very well
Nice.
done.
Good
Very well
job,
done. Very proud of you.
We are very proud of you.
Good work.
I'm also just glad to selfishly have you home for
Yes,
Thanksgiving.
so am I. And I'm glad you're punching the show.
Here. I'm so
Good to have you. Good you're here.
Happy Thanksgiving,
I don't
everybody.
like Mamdani, yet I love
He's
him.
my best friend.
We're going to get into Mamdani here in a minute and Trump.
Trump and Mamdani. What
unbelievable.
happened?
All right, so
Okay.
let me just give you a quick little.
Oh, good luck with this, sir.
I know.
Good luck.
So-
we should have bullet points for you to make
Okay,
this one happen. But
we're going
go
to
for
start
it.
with the economy and how it is affecting candidates in New Mexico. We did an event last week. We've got a lot of people saying, "What's going on? Why aren't there more people jumping in to run for governor, United States Senate, congressional seats here in New Mexico? What's going on?" We're going to answer that question clearly for you here off the top of the show, talking about the economy. Then we're going to talk about a wild story out of Minneapolis.
Yeah, this is insane.
Oh, and I don't know if you've heard about this. It's a fraud investigation by the Justice Department into people who are claiming their children have autism when they don't. And then they collect literally hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent claims. It is wild.
And where they're sending that money and who that money is going to
Is
support
even worse.
Is even worse.
Yeah.
So just hang on your hats for that one. 'Cause
No
it's
doubt.
really scary,
Okay,
actually.
and Trump and Mamdani, the
Yeah,
love
what?
fest. Who saw the love fest coming between these two? So we'll get into details on that.
don't understand
Our guy, Showboat Sam Bregman.
Yeah.
I am coming down. I am a Bregman guy today.
Oh, no.
I'm
What
not
character?
kidding.
Wait, what's his character today?
I think we're talking about. I think what we're getting today is bipartisan Sam.
Oh,
yeah.
whoa.
No, I got, and I like what
Now,
he's.
I don't know which side I'm on, Sam, because that's a nice
Yeah.
blend. I mean, usually it
Yeah.
goes back and forth between. I'm not sure what side I'm on.
Yeah, no, I think it's true.
Depends on
He
what
might not
donor
be
I
on-
need money from. I'm not sure.
Well, he may not be on either side with some of this, but I do like what he's doing.
Okay.
And so we're going to get into details on that, give him some credit for that. Marjorie Taylor Greene, her announcement, yikes. And we're going to talk about nuclear power and how it is I mean, we've talked about how it's the future on this show. There's no doubt. And some interesting stuff on that. Utah is getting into the nuclear game big. We need to match them. And I want to talk about that. Not that we're not involved in it. We are involved in it as a state, but we need to be more involved. And then, of course, we are going to talk a little bit of Sunday game day. We may even have a turkey or two. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. Well, let's jump right in. Obviously, we get asked a lot, why are there not more people that are jumping in here on a statewide race for governor, for the, the Senate campaign? There was we just had an election last year. Nella Domenici.
Well, we have two senators, so yeah.
Right. Nella Domenici really ran unopposed, right? And then now we've got the governor's race coming up. We've got some House district seats.
We have a Ben Ray seat is up. Like all that's happening. And again, House seats, not statewide, but they're equally important. And so let's start with talking about the economy, though, first, and some of what's come out with the Wall Street Journal.
Okay, so here is the headline today. It says, the middle class is buckling almost 5 years of persistent inflation. Workers grow tired of the economy in which everything seems to get more expensive. So they're breaking this down. It says America's middle class is weary. After nearly 5 years of high prices, many middle class earners thought life would be more affordable by now. Costs for goods and services are 25% above where they were in 2020, even though the inflation rate is below its recent 2022 high. Certain essentials like coffee, ground beef, and car repairs are up markedly this year.
And so just, again, 25% from where we were. And again, this is some of what Trump ran on, right? Bringing prices down. Obviously, they haven't gone up like they did under Biden, but they haven't come down.
Right. Okay, it goes on to say the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Survey showed that 44% of middle-income respondents said their financial situation was worse than it was a year ago, while 23% said it was better, based on a 3-month average ending in September. Those who feel worse off overwhelmingly said it was because of the higher prices.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? I mean, we're continuing to deal with this, and the numbers reflect it. So if you go look now at repos on cars and where we are on that, those numbers are higher than they've been in 15 years. So that's the Great Recession, basically. And here are the numbers right here. And if you go up and you look at these numbers, now the numbers for 2025 are now projections, but we could well see 3 million cars repoed in this country. Families are getting crushed.
Right.
Okay. So it is, there's no doubt, it is by far the biggest issue facing anybody who's going to run for political office. So to put a fine point on this, I want you to listen to Harry Anton talk about Trump's numbers on the economy and what this may look like going into 2026. And then we'll talk about what it means for candidates in New Mexico. But these numbers for the president and for anyone that's currently in office, especially if you're a Republican, are a huge concern.
Away from Donald Trump, away from Donald Trump. John Berman, move out of this screen. Away from Donald Trump. Well, it has everything to do with inflation. It's the cost of living, baby. That is the name of the game. You go back to January, he was 3 points above water. This was the reason why that voters gave him a second term. You look at this, Now, 34 points underwater. My goodness gracious, that is a 37-point move in the wrong direction.
All right. I mean, inflation, one of the things the Fed could do to fight inflation, if that were a concern, is they would raise interest rates right now. Right now, there's been an issue of whether they'll cut them or lower them after the mixed jobs report yesterday. What do the prediction markets say now?
Yeah, okay, so Donald Trump has been pushing. And you know what? The chance that the Fed Reserve in December cuts interest rates now up to 70% because one of the Fed Reserve members said essentially there was still room for cuts. This will be welcome news for Donald Trump. Whether it ultimately, though, gets at its true problem, which in my opinion is the cost of living, I think a lot of economists would disagree that it would. But that is what the prediction markets say, and that's, of course, based upon one of the...
Okay, so potential for cutting rates, which we've talked about, but you see the mass migration away from Trump on the economy.
37 points. That's drastic in this short amount of time. Yeah.
It's massive. So if you're a candidate now and you're thinking about running in New Mexico, what you're looking at and you're saying to yourself, okay, how do I do this? And to me, it's the ultimate catch-22. Because if you're a candidate who says, all right, and you're asked about Trump and what's going on with the economy, what's happened to national or local elections is they're more nationalized than they've ever been. Okay, you're just more tied to the president than you've ever been tied to. And it's kind of a part of what Trump has brought to the stage, right? Is that's exactly how it all works. So I think a couple things are happening here. If you're a candidate, the catch-22 you're caught in is you say, okay, let's say that you embrace Donald Trump. Okay, you embrace Donald Trump and you say, I'm going to run with Trump. I'm going to run in New Mexico with Trump, and that's how I'm going to do it. Well, you just saw those numbers. That's a real problem. Those are real numbers. We're going to show you some other real numbers here in just a second that make that hard.
Especially in New Mexico, where you're not running in a bright red state to start with, right?
Correct.
So when he's not, he won here by 45% of the vote. Sorry, did not win, but got 45% of the vote here at the last election, right? Which was pretty high. I mean, that's pretty high, but it's still not the highest. And if he's dropped 37 points at this point.
On the economy. Right. Yeah. And that's really what got him elected,
that's a ding, though. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're totally right. Now, let's take the other side of this. Let's say for a minute, you're a candidate. You're like, well, I'm just not going to talk about Trump. I'm going to distance myself. I'm not going to accept that Trump's even there. And I'll say, you pull a little bit of what Nella did, try to create that space between you and Trump. Okay. Well, guess what then? You don't turn out the voters that elected Trump. Your turnout gets depressed and you don't win. So how do you get around that? It's a massive issue right now. So I think that's why you're not seeing very many congressional candidates. You're not seeing a Senate candidate. You're not seeing many governor candidates because there's so many things that are tied to the economy right now. It's really difficult to imagine that you're going to be in a spot where the environment will be good enough for you to win. So you're caught in that catch-22. You're too close to him. You're out because of that. You're not close enough to him. You don't get enough votes that come your way because of that. And then there's one other factor, and that is how is Trump doing with Latino voters or Hispanic voters right now? Those numbers are difficult too, and Harry Enton points to them as well.
What about the Latino vote overall? All right, how do Latinos feel about Donald Trump overall? Let's take a look here. This, I think, sort of gives the game away.
Goodness.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I mean, that is the phrase of the day. Trump's net approval rating among Latinos. In early February, again, he was just 2 points underwater. Look at where he is now. Late October, minus 34 points. 34 points underwater, a shift of 32 points over the course of this year. I should point out this is the CBS News YouGov poll, but I was looking at the averager polls. I was looking at our own poll. Very similar shift. 20, 25, 30-point shifts on the net approval rating away from Donald Trump among Latinos overall. Again, whatever Donald Trump is doing in office, in the minds of Latinos, it is not working. They have turned.
Okay, so they've turned away from Trump, basically, is what they're saying. Okay, I have some questions for you then, since you know this really well, right? Okay, so the argument could be posed as this was a rate from February to October, and we saw this massive decline, right? So what about the people that are saying, hey, listen, it's still early on. Our election is not till for a year from now, right? So for, like, say, our governor's race and our, our congressional seats, they're not up until for a year. Is there a way that this comes back around? Because, I mean, the thing I think that's so interesting is people that have actually run before in this state know how hard it is as a Republican to start with. And you don't want to go in when the president is underwater this much. Like, there is some real hesitancy there because you're thinking, wow, it's definitely winnable, but you don't want that much of an uphill battle.
Correct. And I think that's a really good point. Because when you're a candidate who just blindly walks into something and says, I'm going to be different than him. I'm going to be different than everybody else. It's tough to outrun Trump. It's incredibly difficult, right? And I don't even mean that numbers wise. I mean that just in general, right? You're tied to the president of your own party now more than you ever have been. So that's an issue. But to your original point, could it get better? Yes, it absolutely could get better. There's no question. You just don't know. And so you're walking in blindly, and history tells you it will not get better enough for you to win. That's what history tells you. But there are people all the time that defy history. They defy what really happens. The problem is, and I tell this to candidates every single time, I say, you are likely to succeed or fail based on something that is completely and totally out of your control. And this is the ultimate example of that. But if you're looking at the total field right now, I would tell you chances are you're going to be swimming further uphill than you would be even in a normal year. Now, if Kamala Harris were president, it would be a very different story.
Right. It'd be a totally different ballgame.
I think you'd have 6 or 7 Republicans in for the governor's race.
Yeah,
and you
agreed.
Don't.
Right.
And you don't.
Okay, but here's some good news. So Scott Besson, he sat down and had a conversation talking about, hey, the economy, we recognize it's not doing so great. Again, we talked a little bit about how that messaging did start to shift a couple of weeks ago with more, more in check with reality, which is like, hey, we know prices are not great right now. We are working on it, and there is hope for 2026. So here's a little clip from him that talks a little bit about like, hey, we do have something in our future, our close future, that hopefully will help us.
And there's one other thing he talks about in here. Wow. He makes reference to a country that I didn't expect him to talk about, but it could be very important.
Confident about job growth and the momentum that we've got for next year. And I think what it is going to take is for people to see, the president has done, I keep saying peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals. So we did the one big beautiful bill in July, and we are seeing a CapEx boom thanks to that. Historically, capital expenditure is always followed by job growth. The peace deals, we are seeing a peace dividend from that, and I think there's a very, very good chance that if something happens with Russia, Ukraine, if something happens down in Venezuela, that we could really see oil prices go down even more. And oil and gasoline prices are down substantially under President Trump. And that is really the key to affordability, is lower energy. So energy goes into food prices. And then, Laura, the third part.
Okay. He mentions Venezuela.
Yeah, just like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay, I get the Russia-Ukraine thing, and we've talked a little bit about this, but we are amassing a lot of firepower in the Caribbean, potentially to deal with Venezuela. Now, there is a very direct connection between some of what happens in the Venezuelan, especially hierarchy and military, and the drug trade. That does happen. The drugs aren't produced in Venezuela, but a lot of them pass through there. So there's some of that. But the bigger story is Venezuela is, in our hemisphere, probably ground zero for overall oil and gas deposits. What's going to happen with that? I don't know.
The fact that he even led to that.
Well, it's no secret of what we're doing militarily down there. I mean,
Right.
we are definitely amassing a lot of firepower. And Maduro has destroyed that country. I mean, the Venezuelans, those poor people, have been under his jackboot for a decade, and it has destroyed the country. They're a country with unbelievable reserves. They should be a wealthy country beyond belief, and the prosperity should flow to their people. But guess what? Socialism and communism isn't working there. What a shocker, because it doesn't work anywhere. And it's such an incredible microcosm of wealth and the potential for prosperity that is squandered by what he's done and what a dictator has done. So we'll see what happens there. So could that be something that totally changes the ballgame? I don't know. But the fact that Scott Bessent mentioned it was interesting. But the takeaway from all of this is when you're looking at candidates and you're looking at where we are right now, you got to see how things shake out. But here's one other note for you. You have to, as a candidate, you have to declare by early February. That's the deadline.
And so will things really change between now and, say, end of January? Because you can't just – declaring's one thing. You got to have your signatures in line. You've got to have – right? You have to –
Right. No, actually, you have more time to do that.
Okay.
But declaring is declaring, basically.
Right.
So you just got to declare, and then, you got to go get your signatures. You got to do all that really quickly. You got to do that, too. That'll be in March and all that stuff. You're absolutely right. But the biggest thing would be to make that decision to jump in. And so you have to make that by early February. I can tell you for a fact – you're not going to have enough information to know how things are going to shake out, even by early February. So I just think for all the people wondering what's going on and why aren't there more people in these races, is New Mexico that far gone? New Mexico is not that far gone.
It's just the timing.
It's just the timing, and because you have Trump in office, the fact that you're going to be tied to him. If you're a candidate who looks in the mirror and says, I'm not going to be tied to Trump, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you, as a Republican. And that's why you're seeing a lot of Republicans know what they're talking about. Because they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I want the economy. Now, if the economy was roaring, you'd have a ton of people in the race. If you had Kamala Harris as the president, you'd have a ton of people in the race. But when you're going uphill, you have a president in your own party, you got a troubled economy, it can be really difficult. So that's why. But don't think for a minute that the state of New Mexico is not competitive. I do still believe it is. I think it's a single-digit state. I think it's going less than. I think it's going to be really competitive in years to come. And I'd make this argument to you: it may not be competitive in 2026, but it will be in the future in a big way in 2028 and 2030. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Yeah, I mean hopefully that answers a lot of questions we get about, who do we think's going to jump in and why are there not more candidates announcing things of that nature? Because I think honestly, if people that have run in some sort of some sort of campaign or worked on campaign, they're knowledgeable about that. There's a lot to the decision to run than just the decision to run. It is, what is the outcome? What's the information showing? And is this winnable at this time? Because you don't jump in this thing if you think you can't win. You have to believe 100% that you can win, or there's zero reason to go do it.
Yeah, and you've got to be smart enough to remember. You got all these different consultants around, especially in DC.
Oh yeah,
who will tell you, "Oh no, you can win." Oh, they'll tell you that but they don't know. They have no idea. These people, right? And so that's why you always want to surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about, and aren't guys from DC who get a paycheck from you. Mm-hmm. And so it's always funny because I always get candidates who go, "Oh, I heard from the committee and this committee or that committee. NRCC says that I should run, or the NRSC, the Republican." Senatorial committee says I should run, and I'm like, oh gosh. And yeah, they say you should run because stick your head in the wood chipper, not theirs, right? Yeah. So watch these DC folks; they'll tell you all kinds of stuff. But if you listen to people on the ground here who really know, that's when you can get a good indication, and it doesn't look great now. Now, at some point, somebody's going to take a chance and do it, right? And who knows? Maybe they pull off a massive upset, and it's great, right? But you never know. But that's why you're not seeing the numbers. So
that's why you're not seeing the numbers. We'll keep our eyes on it, though, because things can potentially change. And, of course, we'll continue to tell you everything that we find out along the path, because we do think there'll be more information coming out pretty soon on some of that stuff as well. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Okay. Let's talk about this fraudulent case that's happening up in Minnesota, and the reason we're talking about it is because it's so scary, number one. It could impact not just Minnesota, but other parts of our country, and just the fact of how bad the fraud has been up there. That just happened because of what they call in this article, which we're going to share some pieces of you, is kind of like nice guy policy, right? Like trying to help out everybody, and instead just getting taken to the cleaners. Taxpayers are funding in the hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent cases. Yeah, so the U.S. Attorney in the U.S. Attorney's Office with U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson announced back in September, he announced a fraud investigation where there were a bunch of people coming in, and there was a bunch of fraudulent stuff happening in Minneapolis. Was part of their social programs. Okay, I think it was a meals program. It was initially a meals program. They were saying that they were serving hundreds of meals a day. And then they actually uncovered the meals, and it was like maybe 12 a week. Yeah. To hungry children. It was like Feed Our Children kind of program. Right. And they manipulated it to the hundreds and thousands a week, and they were just getting these payouts. And so what they do is they turn it into the government and say, we're feeding all these people. And then the government, they get these massive checks, right? Okay, they weren't doing any of it, right? Okay, well, it gets even worse in what they're doing now. So I want you to start with this. So we pick it up from, there was a bunch of fraud with these meals programs, and then it didn't stop there. It then went into claiming your kids have autism when they don't, so that they could cut huge checks. So we'll take pieces of this and explain it along the way. Okay, just days later on September. Oh, I'm sorry, just one other thing. This is in the City Journal. Okay. Just if you want to go look it up on your own and read the longer article, you can. A lot of the TV stations in Minneapolis are now covering this. Some of the news stations nationwide are now covering this. Fox has done stuff on it now over the past couple of days. But City Journal, we pulled their stuff because they're the ones who did the original reporting. Just days later, on September 24th, U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson announced his office's first indictment in yet another fraud case. This time, the scheme involved federally funded autism services for children. The accused is a woman named Asha Farhan Hassan, a member of Minnesota's Somali community, who has also been charged in the Feeding Our Future scam. That was that scam we just talked about. She's alleged to have played a role in a $14 million fraud scheme perpetrated against Minnesota's early intensive development and behavioral intervention program. Hassan and her co-conspirators approached parents in the Somali community and recruited their children into autism therapy services. It didn't matter, prosecutors suggested, if a child did not have an autism diagnosis. Hassan would facilitate a fraud one. Okay, so this sets up a program where basically this woman goes out and says, okay, go and start claiming you have autism, and we're going to put you into a test program. Doesn't matter if you have it or not, right? I'm going to make it look like you do. And we're going to cut you a monthly check to be part of this. So you're part of this. You get some money. We get some money. Well, let's read that. It says in a press release announcing the indictment, the U.S. Attorney's Office made clear that the alleged autism fraud scheme extended to a wide network of people. To drive up enrollment, Hassan and her partners paid monthly cash kickback payments to the parents of children who enrolled. These kickback payments ranged approximately from $300 to $1,500 per month per child. The amount of these payments were contingent on the services DHS authorized a child to receive. The higher the authorization amount, the higher the kickback. Often, parents threatened to leave and take their children to other autism centers if they did not get paid higher kickbacks.
Okay, this is like college football. If you don't pay us enough in the NIL, I'm going to go to a different school and get more money. It's crazy.
Because all this is a big old scam. So listen to the numbers here. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Much like with the HSS program, autism claims to Medicaid in Minnesota have skyrocketed in recent years, from just $3 million in 2018 all the way up to $399 million in 2023. Meantime, the number of autism providers in the state spiked from, listen to this, from 41 to 328 over the same period. That's how many providers there are in this small area. 328 autism specialists, these centers that have creeped up in this area.
Well, that's in the state, yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable.
I'm sorry. I don't know how many autism specialties we have in Albuquerque, the state of New Mexico.
Not enough.
But not enough. But it's nowhere near this, right?
No, it's not. That's crazy. Think about that number for a minute. You're right to bring that up. $3 million spent in 2018, almost $400 million by 2023.
In 5 years.
A massive number of that fraudulent.
I don't know how that red flag didn't ding, ding, ding in years previously. But anyway, by the time the fraud scheme was exposed, 1 in 16 Somalian 4-year-olds in the state had reportedly been diagnosed with autism, a rate more than triple the state average. This is not an isolated 1 in 16 4-year-olds.
That's unreal.
This is not an isolated scheme, Thompson, the U.S. attorney said in a press release. From feeding our future to housing stabilization services, and now autism services, these massive fraud schemes form a web that has stolen billions of dollars in taxpayer money. Each case we bring exposes another strand of this network.
Okay, so here's the thing. So you've got all this stuff set up in these communities. You've got much higher rates because they're making it up, right? They're stealing money effectively. At least that's what they're accused of at this point. But the question then becomes, where does that money go? And part of the issue here is that Somalia is uniquely set up for repatriation funds to go back in there. In other words, people from the United States sending money there. And the question is, where does that money go? And that's where things get even scarier.
Okay, so this is our investigation reveals for the first time that some of this money has been directed to an even more troubling destination, the Al-Qaeda-linked Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab. According to multiple law enforcement sources, Minnesota's Somali community has sent untold millions through a network of hawalas, informal clan-based money traders that have wound up in the coffers of Al-Shabaab. According to Glenn Kearns, is a retired Seattle Police Department detective who spent 14 years on a federal joint terrorism task force, the Somalis ran a sophisticated money network spanning from Seattle to Minneapolis and were routing significant amounts of cash on commercial flights from the Seattle airport to the Hawala networks in Somalia. One of these networks, Kearns discovered, sent $20 million abroad in a single year. The amount of money was staggering. Now, this gets into more of the terror ties. And so I want to make sure that you guys understand this. A second former official who worked on the Minneapolis JTTF confirms the story's general structure. This former official, who requested to remain anonymous, worked on 2 terrorism cases that intersected with Minnesota's Somali community and has studied the flow of funds from Minnesota to Somalia. Quote, every scrap of economic activity in the Twin Cities, in America, throughout Western Europe, anywhere Somalians are concentrated, every cent that is sent back to Somalia benefits Al-Shabaab in some way, the former official said. Quote, for every dollar that is transferred from the Twin Cities back to Somalia, Al-Shabaab is taking a cut of it.
And one of the statements made in this story was the single biggest benefactor to Al-Shabaab is the state of Minnesota, and more importantly, the taxpayers of Minnesota.
Yeah, let's play. This is the last part of the story I want to read. It says, welfare fraud is likely to become a major issue in Minnesota's 2026 elections. Governor Tim Walz, now seeking a 3rd term, has presided over a litany of scandals and faces Republican Kristen Robbins, who has made fraud prevention central to her campaign. Gator, the former state senator, said, quote, political blowback is brewing in the state, and that as more information emerges from ongoing investigation, it's a real rough place to be if you're the current administration. He added that if you talk to law enforcement officers and others close to the probes, they will tell you off the record that we aren't even close to being halfway there in understanding the true scale of all of this fraud. The first step to solving a problem is acknowledging it. By extension, that means recognizing the problem's true source. So far, Minnesota's governing class and its media establishment have failed to take that basic step.
And so what they're really referring to there is looking at the Somali community and trying to assess how deep does this go and what systems have our leaders in government set in place to make sure that the generosity of Americans, and especially in this particular case, Minnesotans, isn't taken advantage of. Because I think what you start to see here is this is emblematic of a bigger issue, which is that government and people in government are just fine with watching this sort of horrendous, absolute theft happen if they feel like it helps them politically. And that cannot happen, because what you start to have happen is people, just hardworking Americans, who sit there and look at it and go, I cannot believe I bust my butt every day, and we're literally watching $500 million fly out the door to other countries where we're being ripped off. And it creates a cleave between people in this country that nobody wants to see happen, but our leaders cannot be asleep at the switch.
Well, and not only that the money is flooding into other countries, it's one thing if you're sending mom and dad and grandparents back home a little bit of money. That's totally different than what they're claiming in this article. They're claiming that this is funding terrorism.
Well, the country
ISIS
in general,
groups.
the country in general is one that is truly fraught with absolute. The government doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. In fact, the amount of money flown in from outside sources, meaning people sending money back to Somalia, is more than the government takes in itself,
right?
Which is wild,
yeah.
Right? I mean, you can't even imagine that.
It's so corrupt. And the thing is like, to the credit of some of the Somalia people, not everybody. I mean, I'm watching some other news reports and stuff as well on this, because I think this is a fascinating situation. And producer Debbie, she lives up there, so she sends me a lot of content on this actual topic that I've been watching. And what's interesting is a lot of people, they're hardworking people up there from Somalia, and they're sending money oblivious to the fact that there is a cut going by this ISIS terrorism group. So it's like it's really happening. The DOJ is all over this right now. They do not believe, based on everything else I'm watching, other than just even this article mentions it, they haven't even got to the tip of the iceberg on this.
But this is on our leaders. This is on our leaders to say, wait a minute, we are not going to stand for this kind of fraud. And believe me,
but here's the thing.
And I don't care what constituency takes part in it.
Okay, so that's the problem. That's the problem. And that's what I'm finding in some of these other articles and these things I'm following, is that a lot of the political leaders that are up there right now that are running for these offices, the Somalia community is a major voting group of people.
Sure.
So if you start calling out fraud and saying, we're going to crack down on this, we're going to crack down on some of these programs, they are risking the opportunity to win these statewide elections.
But then you do otherwise. You don't address it. And then the vast majority of Americans, or in this case, Minnesotans, look at this and go, we're getting ripped off here. Why are you not standing up for us?
Because
why aren't you looking into this? Now, it's a federal issue right now, but still, why is the state of Minnesota allowing this to happen?
Well, look at this. You got Tim Walz, right? You've got the mayor of Minnesota. These people are they constantly talk about this. Minneapolis, sorry.
Yeah.
You've got these guys coming around saying how important these communities are, right?
They are important communities.
Listen, I don't think that a lot of people that are living in Minnesota have any understanding of how bad this fraud's getting. Now it's coming out.
Yeah.
Now the news sources are starting to come to life on this.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that I look at people like Debbie up there, doesn't know necessarily, just sees a major change happening in the communities there. The major shift, she said, that is changing with these communities. Because the other thing that's interesting too, and this is a sidebar, but she said what's interesting about this is they don't really they're massive communities of Somalians, and they all kind of, and everything I'm watching these reports, they want to stay together in their own community. So there's not a lot of back and forth talk between all these communities and like neighborhoods and stuff. They stay very much funneled by themselves, or the other communities do. So there's not a lot of back and forth information that even comes out about this
Okay,
situation.
fine. But all right, that's fine. I'll expect the Somali news network to come out with this. My point is that news networks across Minnesota should. The thing that kills me here is that when you don't have the media jump in and do their job, and they keep things quiet and don't talk about things, then things get to this point. They get to a boiling point where you're looking at massive fraud, and this shouldn't be happening. We should have media digging into stuff all the time, and we should be reporting all the time on what's going on. It will keep our leaders more responsive. It will therefore allow people who live in this country or are trying to assimilate to this country to realize, look, do it the right way and don't cheat this country. Like, when you start ignoring things or not reporting on issues, then you end up with this.
Well, all I'm saying is I think that the media market up there is following what is being told to them by their state leaders, right? And the state leaders don't want to talk about this because they need the vote. That's my whole point, is there is no assimilation. So the news media basically that's up there, they're focusing on not this community. Right?
Well, they're starting to report on it now.
Now.
But I know.
This
It takes
fraud's
too
been
long.
going on for years.
This is the point we've been trying to make about why real media and media that is trying to push a political narrative or ignoring certain things is so dangerous, because it gets to this kind of boiling point, and it is much, much worse. So if the media stands up and does their job, I just think that it's going to actually turn the temperature down in this country, not turn it up.
Well, I think it will always be interesting is when federal dollars are being investigated for fraud, because I do think that is something that Trump's administration has been very adamant about finding. I think when you've got something that goes from 3 million to 400 million in 4 years, as far as funding goes.
It just shows
hello.
a blatant wanton disregard for what's happening on the state level too. It's outrageous.
Crazy. All right,
okay.
So we got to jump into this story because you threw this one in at me today.
Well, I found it to be comical, actually. So Zora Mamdani and Donald Trump met in the Oval Office, and I'm telling you, if you watch their presser after they met, you would have thought they're going to be part of a buddy cop drama that's coming up on HBO Max. I mean, these two are going to be incredible. Trump and Mamdani out there investigating crime. I mean, these guys look like best friends. It was wild. So I just want you to just listen to them going back and forth. Just a few different questions. These are separate little clips all put together. But just listen. I mean, hold on. Let's just listen first, and then we can react.
Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
So is that a reduction from what you're at right now? Are you committing to maintaining the same level of cops?
I've committed over the course of the campaign to maintain the 35,000. That's the head count that we had through the campaign.
And not replace them with caseworkers, social workers?
No, I've said that's the head count that we want. What we need to do is make sure they can focus on serious crime.
And he just retained a great police commissioner, I believe, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so Trump is literally running interference on him on crime, which he's been horrendous on. Right.
I don't understand this. And what if you're listening and not watching, you miss the pat on the back from Trump, literally the physical pat on the arm.
Oh,
like,
you can call me.
You can call me a fascist. It's fine. Everybody knows it. Like what? I'm so confused by this. Like, what was the point of this?
Because I will tell you, I think that Trump, and we've talked about this on the show before, that you have to understand. Well, first of all, Trump is not this whole thing where Trump it was turned into this monster who hates the other side all the time. That's not true. Trump wants to yuck it up with you, wants to backslap. It's just part of who he is. It really is. There are plenty of people. If you say nice things about Trump, he'll say nice things about you. Like, that's just how it works.
Right.
He is not somebody who's like, I hate you. And the people that he hates are people that try to, throw him in jail, for example, right? As he's running. So Trump has that in him, where it's like, if you get along well with Trump, everybody who spent time with him, and we have not, but everybody who has spent time with him says, there is this real kind of avuncular, nature that he has, and that you really kind of like him. And Mamdani is a very effective communicator, gives this feeling of
I'm not going to be a socialist.
Well, no, I think what he's talking about, which we have continually hit on this show, which is affordability. He is talking about affordability. So if he stays on affordability, it's an easier place for him to be than super high taxes, high regulation,
cutting the police force, bringing in social workers to manage the crime.
That stuff doesn't work at all. But Trump doing this
grocery stores
is super interesting, just because you see this and go, oh my gosh, what's happening here? There are plenty of Trump is in a very interesting spot right now, because there are plenty of people within the MAGA world, and we're going to bring up another issue with Marjorie Taylor Greene, that they're kind of starting to look around and go, what's going on around here? And actually, we should jump to that story next.
Okay, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Abe, we're gonna skip ahead really quickly. We'll come back to the other one, but this is a clip 20. So in case you haven't heard by now, Marjorie Taylor Greene says that she plans to resign in January. She said that she was, keep in mind, she was elected in 2020 out of Georgia. She had positioned herself as a diehard Trump supporter until a series of recent ruptures with the president, who recently unendorsed her. So just take she gave a 12-minute speech on X.
Are we going to play that? Or? No, we're not. Okay.
But if you'd like to listen to it in its entirety, you can find this on X. But I just took a short clip about why she said that she's leaving. I think this is when you boil it all down, after she talks about all the things that she's done well for her constituents.
You boiled this for us?
I tried to boil it down.
That's good.
I listened to the whole thing, so you don't have to.
Okay.
But take a listen to this. This is just a very short 30-second clip that I pulled from it.
Way too much. And I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious.
Okay, so she basically is saying Trump's going to spend money to primary me, which is coming up for her, and she's like, I'm not going to deal with that. Now, what's interesting to me is, I don't understand how the two of them couldn't have met again and had a more civil conversation, and maybe she would have changed her mind. I don't really know, but basically, she went on and on and on in this speech talking about all the platitudes that she had done, the way she had stayed the course in voting, which she has, and she has stayed her course, to her credit on that. But the fact that she feels like when she spoke out about a few things that went against what Trump wanted her to do, that she's getting too much pushback from him, and now he says, like, basically, you're dead to me, and I'm going to primary you. And I think if the two of them had actually met, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I don't know, but she says she's out. So
yeah, bye. I mean, I've never been a fan. I've talked about that many times. I think she's somebody who's not intellectually serious. I think when you make your name on the back of saying ridiculous things, a lot of cases, screaming and doing all these things, doing Trump's bidding in a way that wasn't effective, by the way. I think she is not a credit to the conservative movement at all. So I've never been a fan of hers. And so see you later. She's not an intellectually serious person. So when she decided to do this weird turn and go on The View and start taking shots and all this other stuff, I found her to be, and I find her to be grating, difficult, and hard to take seriously. So the fact that she's gone, to me, is something that I'm just not even going to lose a scintilla of sleep over. So I'm sorry. She's not, I just don't.
I know, I understand. I see your point. I'm just saying that, like, when you actually go and listen to her whole speech, if it was all you knew about her was just this 10-minute speech, you'd be like, wow, we're losing one of the good ones in Congress right now. That's what you would think. If you only listen to her speach.
Oh, okay.
And she talks about the things.
Is that how it works now?
If you listen to what her votes
If that's
were.
how it works now, if you can just give a new 10-minute speech and then that's a whole different thing. Okay, that's fine. But no.
I mean, she does have the people that are behind her, though. So it's going to be interesting.
What people? She's like Will Ferrell streaking in Old School. We're going streaking. And she looks behind her and there's nobody there. Okay. So spare me. All right, let's go ahead and move on.
Let's move on.
I want to go to my guy, and I got to give this guy credit. Ava, it's clip 15. Article on Saturday in the Albuquerque Journal. Showboat Sam calls for term limits and salaries for state legislatures. I want to give him credit because I like what he's doing here. Okay, I like that he's going out and proposing bold things, and like some of them I like, some of them I don't, whatever. And we'll talk about what those are. But I like what he's doing here. And we always try to be honest on this show.
Right.
And when someone does something that we like and like, hey, that's not a bad idea. I think what Showboat's doing here isn't bad. So we'll go through the article real quickly and then go through why it may work or why it may not. Anyway.
Bernalillo County District Attorney, who's one of 3 Democrats vying for the party's nomination in next year's gubernatorial race, said Friday he'd push for lawmakers to receive a salary and be subject to term limits. Quote, we need fresh blood in the legislature. We need new ideas in the legislature to take on the challenges the state is facing.
I could not agree more.
Bregman
We do.
told the
Now, most
Journal.
of it's his own party that is corrupted the legislature.
Exactly.
But hey, let's not quibble over that.
Let's
Showboat.
not quibble over the fact that it's been Democrats in power for the last 80 years. But, we'll move on. Okay. Bregman, who has criticized the Democratic-controlled legislature for balking at a proposed overhaul of New Mexico's juvenile criminal code, also expressed support for changing the length of the annual regular legislative sessions to 90 days.
Okay, so this is where Showboat loses me. I don't think we need to extend our legislative session to 90 days.
No, they're not doing anything right now anyway.
No, they're doing plenty. They're doing too much. And so we don't need these jackals getting 90 days. Okay, if you do and you take the legislative session and multiply it by 3 times, how's that going to go? When they regularly try to destroy oil and gas, they regularly try to take the Second Amendment and shred it. I mean, these guys do this stuff all the time. So if you want to extend the legislative session, no. That's a terrible idea because I think it would put them to work doing more to hurt the state than anything else. So the last thing we need is them in Santa Fe longer left to their own devices.
Okay, and then it comes out here. It says Senate Minority Leader William Scherer from Farmington, he's a Republican from Farmington, said he would oppose the changes sought by Bregman. He said he entered the legislature in 2001 as a supporter of term limits, but has changed his position over the years. Quote, you need some people that have been around long enough to know, Scherer said on Friday.
Okay, let me hit this one.
Okay.
This is where Showboat and I are on the same page. And Bill Scherer from Farmington, first of all, Bill, you know what? People can find the bathroom on their own. They don't need you to show them because you've been there since 2001. Really? Is that how this works? Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, probably though the thought is from Bill, and I'm not to try to cut you off, but I just
no,
think,
but no. Go ahead. I want to hear this one.
Well, I just think that he's probably saying, listen, I know kind of the back rooms conversations that go on and the kind of the slickery that maybe happens with certain bills and
maybe there'd be less slickery if he wasn't there for 20 plus years.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that I can see why he's thinking, to some degree. Listen, I'm all in favor of term limits. I have said that from the beginning. Here's the problem with term limits. This state legislature, they're the ones that have to vote in for term limits. They're never going to do it. Just like our Congress is never going to vote for themselves.
I'm not talking about reality. Stop it. Stop talking about reality. I'm saying this much. So you do 4 terms for the House and you do 2 terms for the Senate. You can have 8 years.
I get
it. You can learn where the bathroom is, Mr. Scherer, in about a year. I'm pretty certain. Maybe even your first couple of times you're there. And you can figure these things out. You can spend years there. We're not saying you can't. We're not saying you only get 1 term. Let's do 4 terms for the House, 2 terms for the Senate. That's 8 years total. That's as much as you need. Okay, you can learn the ropes in a couple of years and figure that out.
Happen.
So I absolutely support him on this.
I support him on that too. I just think that it's interesting that you bring up an idea that's never going to happen, and he knows it's never going to happen. So I just feel like it's like, let me throw out a solution here. Let me try to mix the pot up a little bit and say something that I think that Republicans might like to hear about term limits, right? Because of course Republicans are like chomping at the bit usually about that.
In the middle of the electorate, I think a lot of people would approve it. Yeah, I think he's probably done some thought on that.
I'm just, of course, but I think throwing out a solution
get
that
off Showboat's back. I like what he's doing here.
It's never going to happen. And Sam knows it. We all know it. Okay, they're never going to vote
you
for
can
that.
Be as harsh as you want because I'll tell you why I feel bad for Showboat right now, and that is if you heard Deb Haaland's spokesman reaction to this, this reaction to what Bregman proposed was comically vicious. And I just want you to just read. So Deb Haaland doesn't weigh in on what she thinks of what Bregman said. That's policy. So we don't mess with that if you're Haaland. But we do just rip Bregman. So here is what she says.
A campaign spokeswoman for former U.S. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland pointed out Bregman ran for re-election as district attorney last year after previously saying he would not do so. Quote, Sam's proposal is pretty rich from a guy who's been running for office nonstop since the early 1990s and who has already blown past the term limit he imposed on himself when he got appointed DA, said Haaland campaign spokeswoman Hannah Minchoff, who did not say specifically whether Haaland supports the proposed changes.
Leave that quote up for a sec. Sam's proposal is pretty rich from a guy who's been running for office nonstop since the early 90s. Remember, we're still 6+ months away from the primary. And these two, I mean, they take a knife to Bregman on this. When I read that, I was like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. And it just shows you how vicious this campaign's going to get between these two.
It's going to get fierce. I mean, maybe Deb Haaland, I don't know. I mean, I think anybody with half a brain is going to sit here and say state legislators are never going to vote for themselves to have term limits. I wouldn't even got my
no, it's got to be.
I wouldn't get my feathers up in a ruffle if I was
Yeah.
Deb Haaland. I'd be like, whatever. Like, you could say whatever you want, Sam. These are phony ideas that will never. It will never happen.
It actually got to change the state constitution, so it would have to go to voters, but it'd have to get through the legislature first, which is your point. I get it.
Exactly.
No,
They're
totally.
Never
So
do it.
I don't know, but look, I just want to give a little tip of the cap to my boy Showboat because I think he's doing a good job, and I like what he's doing here.
You think he's doing? Wait, you think he's doing a good job?
I think going out and proposing term limits for our legislature, I loved it. I loved it.
Well, of course you do, because most Republicans are in favor of term limits.
That's right. Thank you very much.
And that's who he's catering to in this particular circumstance.
All right, fine. All right, so let's do a couple other quick things here. Number one, headline out of The Guardian was ludicrous this week, last week. This is crazy. Supply boom in cheaper renewables will seal the end of the fossil fuel era. All right, this just goes to show you, sometimes you read a headline and you're like, this is ludicrous. All right, so I just want you to read the little pull quote, and then I want to show you some numbers to show you how stupid this is.
So it says here, the report shows that this increase in renewable energy could meet nearly all of the world's growing appetite for electricity, which is on track to rise by 40% over the next decade, fueled by the growing demand for electric cars, heating, cooling, and to power AI data centers.
That couldn't be more ludicrous. First of all, we're going to need more energy than that. Number two, renewables couldn't come anywhere near touching that. In fact, look at the solar and wind numbers and what they're projected to do as a total amount of our energy, global energy, in the next 25 years.
Yeah, this little graph. Why don't you explain the graph for those people who can't tune in?
Roughly, it's gonna amount to anywhere between 12 and 16%. Not even close to our needs. Not 100%. Saying it's 100% is bonkers. It just makes no sense. Right? It's not possible in any way, shape, or form.
Listen, Mark, solar and wind's going to end fossil fuel.
I know it is.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
But here's the reality, and this is what we've talked about, right? We've talked about the fact that get ready because we need every single ounce of energy we can get our hands on. And so oil and gas will continue to be a huge part of that. But nuclear is going to be where the future lies in the next 20 to 30 years. There's just no way around it, okay? And on that front, the U.S. now and regulators are now going to start to open some nuclear avenues that have been closed for decades, and one that has its name associated with a nuclear meltdown.
So it says U.S. backs a $1 billion loan to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant.
Yep.
Constellation Energy aims to bring the mothballed plant back to life to power a Microsoft AI agreement. The Trump administration will give Constellation Energy a $1 billion federal loan to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania that suffered a partial core meltdown in 1979. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said Tuesday that restarting the plant will help bring down electricity prices and that the administration will act to bring more nuclear generation online. Quote, "We want to bring as much addition of the reliable electricity onto the grid to stop these price rises," he said, adding that such moves will help reshore manufacturing in our country.
Okay, and one other just one other quick little detail on that. They'll use the reactor that wasn't damaged in the meltdown. Like that's what they're going to do, okay? But then you take this, you dovetail it with what's happening in Utah. Governor Spencer Cox announces with, I think it was the mayor of Brigham City, that they're going to start doing small modular nuclear reactors and producing them in Utah. All right, SMRs are small modular reactors. They're kind of the next generation of nuclear reactors. Now, these are fissile reactors, not fusion. Fusion is still a ways away. But we do know fission and we do know small modular, and they're safe, they're reliable, they're smaller, okay? And Utah is going to get into them in a huge way. So Brigham City is going to be a huge part of this,
yes,
okay?
Yes, the Salt Lake City Tribune. This is the headline that we popped up, but let's just read this really quickly and then you can continue.
Yeah.
Utah unveils plans to bring nuclear hub to Brigham City. The partnership will train a local workforce and help build reactors to power the Intermountain West, officials said.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's super smart, and we need to be on that in New Mexico. Okay, that's my point in this whole thing. So what do we do in New Mexico right now? We don't have SMRs that are going to hop online here and provide energy for us anytime soon, but we definitely have an SMR footprint here in New Mexico. Here are some of the things that we're doing in the state as we currently sit here. It's clip 28, Ava. And here we go. So Kuros Power is building an SMR modules and a salt coolant basically unit here in Albuquerque. It's being shipped out of state once they get it all done. And then we obviously produce uranium fuel outside of Eunice. Lanel and the University of New Mexico study SMRs. And obviously there's a lot more that we need to do here. But what aren't we doing right now? I think, and that's 29, Ava. And there's a few things that we need to do. We need to start getting on board with the small modular nuclear reactor boom, and we need to build them here. We need to have them here. We need to be the nuclear state. We already are in many ways, and we're doing a lot of these things. I think our government in some ways has said, yeah, we get it to some degree. They need to do it a whole lot more. This needs to be something that needs to be priority number one. I mean, because with oil and gas and nuclear, we will be an absolute energy powerhouse here. I think we're taking some steps to do it. I think we need to be much more aggressive, and I think we need to be the state that surpasses Utah in this, and we have to be the energy state. And I think SMRs are part of that, and eventually fusion's part of that. It's a huge deal.
Okay, yeah, it definitely sounds like it's something that, I mean, you've been talking to me about this forever because this was part of your campaign.
Energy is. We have to be, as a country, we have to be an energy exporter in a massive way. And we have to be coming up with the right SMR designs, the right fusion designs going forward, the future of the planet. And I don't even say that in any sort of hyperbolic way. The future of the planet depends on it. And we have to be the ones who are leading that charge. And for too long, our NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, was pushing and holding people back, because there was so much misinformation and, in some cases, some legitimate concern about the safety of nuclear power. But that is not a concern anymore, in the respect that there's been a lot of progress made. Now, we still got to do a lot, but this has to be something that has to be a priority, because as AI continues to swallow things up, data centers are pushing rates up and how much we all pay. Right? Everybody's getting crushed by this. The only way to do it is to flood the grid with more energy. Again, transmission lines everything has to change, but we got to get on it. Like this is something that is a huge deal.
I'm sure they talked about this at the Climate Global meeting that they had a couple of weeks ago.
Did you know that thing flooded like multiple times? Yeah, they had it in a rainforest, and they ended up having to stop a ton of the events because it was flooding. Yeah, and then they're like, climate change. Like, no, actually, you're in a rainforest, genius. So anyway, okay, sorry, let's wrap up here. I think I can get us out under an hour.
I'm going to talk about Thanksgiving, so watch it.
Okay, so I probably won't. All right, so let's get to Sunday game day, and we start with a request from Ava, and it is turkeys. These are wild turkeys in Angel Fire. There they are.
They're there. They're not. Nobody has hunted these guys, so that's good.
No, there's so many wild turkeys in Angel Fire. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of them are massive.
Well, all the turkeys, they go to hide there. They hear it's a safe spot.
Yeah.
And so nobody's going to come after them for Thanksgiving. So that's a smart plan for these birds.
No question. They look great. And then, by the way, I mean, I don't even know if this is the same deer. He just keeps showing up. And he's...
Oh, it's got to be the same guy.
You think so?
We'll take a look at him. Yeah, I think he's...
Look at him.
Yeah, because he's so pretty. I just think...
He is.
I mean, not that they're not a lot.
The other deer look at him and go, dang, you're good looking.
Yeah, I think he's probably like... He's homecoming king.
Yeah.
He's prom king up there. He got voted in best looking guy or most likely to succeed.
Yeah, he's like the Chris Hemsworth of deer.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know.
No.
That's a pretty tall order guy.
I know, but he's a good looking deer.
Good-looking deer. Okay, what else you got here? You got something at night?
Yeah, actually, this is from Ella's friend Claire at her house, and you can see
this is Placidus, right?
Yeah. So you've got a raccoon, or raccoons as we call them here. And let's get him again here. There he goes, just popping down. I've not seen a raccoon on any of our.
Yeah, I think this raccoon is he's taking stuff that Claire's mom is putting out, like a bird feeder or something, if I remember right.
He's going up the tree and taking care of it. I
think that there is something, she's done something out there for other, nice little bird feeder.
Yep.
And he goes and takes all the food, if I remember this story right. And she comes out and it's gone. So then they put up the wildlife camera to see what's happening. who's taking what. So
I love it.
well done on that. Well, okay, so Thanksgiving, really
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dish for Thanksgiving?
You know, that's a good question. You do an incredible job because what Christy does.
That's what I'm looking for. Everybody is some compliments. I'm fishing.
It's really unreal. First of all, because Christy does stages of Thanksgiving Day. In other words, she does the pregame, which is all the divorce that you put out, right, and everything from your common meats and cheeses to like a little with like a. What's the one with the diced tomatoes and
the whipped ricotta?
Whipped ricotta, which is delicious.
With some honey,
right?
lavender. Yeah.
Oh,
sauce.
it's fantastic. And then and then you go, and this is something that a lot of people don't do. What you do is you go to Trader Joe's and you hunt down like these other little things you just chuck in the oven, right?
Yeah.
And then they come out like little cheese balls and various things like that, which are delicious too. And then that just starts things.
Right.
And then you have the full meal, which you do the whole turkey and the stuffing, and it's incredible. And the work that you put in is much appreciated. Your whole family shows up. The girls are back. You're unbelievable at. You're an incredible host.
Well, it
Seriously.
is what my mom and I used to do together. She taught me all the Thanksgiving things. She said once, the very first year I hosted, I was pregnant with Ava. The very first year I ever hosted.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I'll teach. I'm like, and I just kind of thought she'd do everything. And she's like, no. You come in here and I'll teach you everything. And she did.
Cool.
And so
Yeah.
we got to share about 10 Thanksgivings where she helped me.
Yeah, it
and
was
kind
cool.
Of, and like kind of passed the torch to me.
Yep.
And so now this will obviously be my first Thanksgiving without my mom. I mean, she's passed a couple of months ago. But anyway, so yeah, I love doing it. I think it's a lot of fun. And you have to work in the Cowboys game in between there.
You do. And it's Cowboys Chiefs as well. So that's kind of a big deal.
And it's always like, I don't love that they play on Thanksgiving because of how much it impacts a certain person at this table if they win or lose. And those of you at home that are Cowboy fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That it depends on like what mood Mark sits down to
It's been
for the
bad
Thanksgiving
lately too, yeah.
So maybe you should just prep yourself early on.
Here's the thing that you may want to root for, which is that the Cowboys play the Eagles today, Sunday.
Oh,
so if the
goodness
Cowboys
gracious.
don't win that game, basically their season's over.
But
And
we're
so
going
that
to the
would calm me
Vikings
down.
game. We're going to the Dallas.
We are going to the
Dallas
Vikings game.
Vikings
We are going to the
game.
Cowboys Vikings game.
And that's in a couple weeks. So you can't be like boo-hooing them already.
I'm not boo-hooing them. I'm just saying they got to win.
Okay.
They got to win Sunday. If they win Sunday and they win on Thanksgiving, this could turn everything around. It could turn my whole life around.
Your whole life.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay. Ava, did you have any last minute Thanksgiving Day comments?
I wanted to share my favorite Thanksgiving dish.
Okay, what's
of
that?
Yours. I really like stuffing.
Oh, good.
I think it's
Okay.
delicious. I think there's also a lot of people lately. It's big controversy now to be like one of those people who doesn't like turkey, and I think that's lame because I like turkey.
Yeah, turkey's delicious.
I'm a big fan of we had Friendsgiving at Liberty where they had the dining hall people made all of the Thanksgiving food.
that was
and
nice.
Was it good?
It was good actually, and I had so much stuffing. I had stuffing for multiple days in a row. It was because they had so much, and most people don't like stuffing, but I love
know,
it. So I went back for 3
stuffing
days, and I
is
got stuffing
great.
and gravy, and it was delicious.
Do you is stuffing with meat in it? I mean,
I don't
remember-
put meat in ours.
That's gross.
Yeah.
I don't put meat in ours. Now, some people do add sausage and things like that to their stuffings. I use my mom's recipe.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to go off of that.
No, but you make it crispy too, which is tasty.
Well, my mom had this big thing that you baked it with the foil on, and then you take the foil off at the end and you let it get crispy
Critical.
up top.
Critical.
And then you just don't want it to get dry. So
Yeah.
my mom was always like, you can't let it get dried out. And then I love in her she hand wrote all her recipes for me years ago, and I still have all of them handwritten out, and that's what I use. And there's a little note that says, I know you like to try new things, Christy, so if you want to add like cranberries or nuts in this, and I was like, my husband will kill me if I put in cranberries or nuts.
Talk about destroying a dish. Don't add
I can't
fruit.
believe you didn't talk about
There
my-
should be a rule that you can't add fruit to any dish where it was not originally intended.
Oh my gosh.
Like salads. Like when you make a normal salad
I'm making
and you
my
try
harvest
to
salad.
add some sort
Apples?
of fruit to
Yeah, apples. That is not going on. That's not
Inappropriate.
He's right.
Thanksgiving,
This
though.
is disgusting.
That is
Yeah.
not Thanksgiving. Don't
No,
worry
I know,
about
I
that.
know.
That's Monday night's dinner because
Yeah.
I cook every night. The family's here, so
I know
like
you do.
that's
I
Monday
know.
night. Well, you didn't say what your favorite was. I can't believe you didn't bring up my sweet potato casserole.
Oh,
That's
I do
like
love your sweet potato. I do love
That's
that.
your big
I
thing,
do
'cause
love
it's
the
not
sweet
sweet.
potato casserole.
Wait, I don't make a
Actually,
sweet one.
I have to say, I'm a huge mashed potato person.
Yeah.
I love mashed potatoes.
There's nothing that you don't
They are
like, actually.
no,
I'm just
I love
sitting here
everything. That's a
wondering.
good point.
Yeah.
But no, and your
mashed potato
no
person.
Huge
I
mashed
am.
potatoes
I thought you were a
guy.
huge human person.
Well, I am a big mashed potato fan. But
Well,
no,
if you want to write in and tell us what your favorite dish is or any of your favorite Thanksgiving
what's yours
Day
that
holidays.
you cook?
Oh,
that you cook that you make for all of us?
That's a good question.
Gravy's really good.
I like all the combination of stuff together.
Yeah.
But this is going to be so lame because I'm the one that cooks everything. You know, my favorite thing is the cranberry sauce, which comes from a can.
Oh, that's delicious. It
But
is.
I
That
love,
is tasty.
and I only eat it
I
at
agree.
Thanksgiving.
The little jellified.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
I mean,
delicious.
people are like,
I
you
agree.
should make your own. I make everything else on the planet, so I'm not making that. I love the canned stuff, and I think it just reminds me of my mom and being a kid. And
Oh, no,
so
ditto. My parents too.
It's
My
just
parents
what
are,
we do.
yeah,
I mean, and
agreed.
people, trust me, I know there's some great homemade out there, and I think that's awesome. But anyway, we hope that you guys have a beautiful Thanksgiving with your families at home, and thank you for spending a little bit of time with us. Like we said earlier at the beginning of the show, we will not have a show this Wednesday coming up. We'll see you next Sunday. But in the meantime, if you could like, rate, and subscribe, that'd be a great little gift to us. We're so thankful for our community, and we appreciate everything that you guys do for us. Have a beautiful Thanksgiving.
And
God bless you.
And by the way,
Yeah.
God bless you and have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. You wanted to say something.
I just wanted to say that. I usually
Mark would
don't
like-
say anything at the end of the
Mark
show.
would like to have the final word, everybody.
No. I don't have to at the end of the show. But God bless and have a great Thanksgiving. Go ahead.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.